I'm sorry about this, pal.
All right. Sorry about the late start, folks. We'll explain here in a moment, but welcome to the show. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I didn't get to test my audio. But today is Monday, October 21st, 2024. Before we get going here, let me bring our co-host in here, Gary Kendrick. How you doing, Gary?
Hey, Billy. How are you?
Don't pull your hair out. I don't want you going bald. I mean, you got to shave the beard off and put some up there if you pull all your hair out.
Yeah, this has been frustrating. I don't know. I just want to go on and tell the audience it's my fault. I'm sorry. I was going to start the show. Billy had some things going on, and I was going to try to take over and start the show. And I could not get this thing to go live. I tried. I threatened to kill the computer and everything else. So.
Well, one thing's for sure, they've made some changes here. This thing is zoomed way in. Here, there we go. That looks better. I was like, man, why is my face so big in this thing? Man. All right. So again, folks, just an explanation of what happened. I kept getting calls from my niece that lives down the road, and she kept saying that she was having some problems with her heart. You know, she's got anxiety disorders, and she was having a panic attack, so she was freaking out. So I ran down there. We were going to run her to the hospital, but I think after we talked to her a little bit and explained to her, you know, that everything's fine, she started feeling better. So we were able to talk her out of going to the hospital, which would have been a waste of time anyway, because they would have done an EKG. They would have said everything's fine and sent her home. So been through that before.
Amen.
So anyway, sorry we're running late, but without further ado, we're going to get our guest in here, and Tyler, forgive me if I say your name wrong, but I'm going to say Tyler Burgoyne.
You got it,
man. I'm good.
Nailed it.
What a man.
Oh, by the way, there's a Bigfoot walking up your wall back there.
Yeah, you like that? So thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
my first
thanks.
podcast I've ever been on, so I appreciate being on your show first.
Man, I feel privileged now.
And Tyler, I'd just like to say I'm sorry I ruined your experience by making.
That's okay. IT stuff, man. It's.
But as the beard and the long hair, I tell you, I'm not tech savvy.
I'm with you.
So I'll let you know, Tyler. So Gary is he's my researcher. I call him my researcher because he digs up all your dirt, and he'll start asking you questions about it. So, hopefully there's no, bones in the closet.
Shouldn't be any skeletons like you got behind you in my closet. Should be pretty clean.
Tyler, I'm glad to have you on the show tonight. Tyler, you're a firefighter for Harrisonburg, Virginia. You've also been a firefighter for Singers Glen, Virginia. You're a member of the East Coast Expedition Team and co-host on Shenandoah Sasquatch by Small Town Monsters, or co-star on Small Town Monsters. Tyler, I'd like to get into things tonight right off the bat. Can you tell us about your encounter in August of 2010 at Switzer Lake?
Absolutely. Me and my cousin were up there kayak fishing. And we were just kayaking out across the dam there. We got over to the bank. I guess it would be the south side of the dam there. And we kept hearing like this knocking noise coming from the tree line up the bank. And I said, well, that's kind of odd. It's like, you know what? Got nothing to lose. So I tapped the side of the kayak with the paddle, and it answered us back. Like, well, that's weird. So we kind of looked around, and we could count for the other 4 or 5 people that were on the shore. It's like, well, I don't think there's anybody over there. So we tapped on the kayak again, and it knocked back. It's like, oh, that's weird. So that went on for a couple minutes, kind of back and forth until it quit. It's like, that's kind of strange. So then I went on the BFRO's website, and I submitted a report. And Devin contacted me and took my report. And then we got to talking back and forth about doing our own research. So he encouraged me to put out a recorder. And I have some private land that belongs to a friend of mine about 5 minutes from where I live. So we started going back here and putting the recorder out, doing some audio stuff and some squatch. And we actually got some pretty good recordings that I sent off to Devin. And he was able to verify, and matched all the stuff that he was doing at the time. And so we have the real deal stuff back there. So we hit that place up for probably 2 months, 3 months hard, found some stick structures, and then it just stopped. About January to February of 2011, the activity just stopped. And then I kind of got out of it a little bit. Life happened. And then a couple of years ago, I got in touch with Charles Kimbrough, and we started, going out night hikes. And that's when I got back into it.
Cool.
Excellent. Now, Devin, would that be Monongahela?
Yes, sir.
Monongahela. Yep. All right. Tyler, can you tell us a little bit about your work and research with East Coast Expeditions?
Yeah, I'm fairly new to that game. Like I said, I did some stuff by myself, a little bit here and there with a cousin of mine who's actually in the military. So when he left to go to the service, I kind of stopped because I didn't have everybody to go in the woods with, and I wasn't going to go by myself. So then I got in touch with Devin again, probably 2019, 2020, somewhere in there. And he got me in touch with Charles since he lived in the area. So we had went out a couple times, and he invited me to go to West Virginia for an ECE private expedition. So I went back there, got to meet some of those guys and girls, and they invited me to join the group. So then me and Charles just, became pretty good friends, and we've gone out night hikes, set out some recorders, just small stuff here and there. Actually went on my very first BFRO expedition a couple weeks ago. Had some good activity there, so we can talk about that later. But yeah, this project with Small Town Monsters has been pretty neat. That's when I've actually got to go out with Evan. Usually he's not able to go out with us, so that was the first time we got to go out with him, or I got to go out with him. And he's wealth of knowledge, and Greg is awesome, and Charles is great. So those guys have been mentors to me.
Good.
Excellent. All right, this is going to sound a little weird, but in your interview on the Shenandoah Sasquatch, you stated that Sasquatch was intelligent.
Yes.
Do you think that Sasquatch has a human-like intelligence, or is it a more animal-like intelligence?
That's a good question. I think it's kind of both. I think it's not quite as smart as us, and the fact that I believe that they kind of get they can't multitask. They get kind of sidetracked. Like a lot of times when we're doing night hikes and we're in groups, we'll split up. We'll have one group walking, like 4 or 5 of us together, and we'll drop off. And then sometimes you'll hear wood knock. So I think they kind of lose track of us, so they can't multitask. So I think there might be lacking a little bit intelligence. But as far as them being able to make nests and do these wood knocks and communicate with each other, that shows a big sign of intelligence over other animals out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If I can just get in there a little bit with you on that question, I'm I'm an aper. I believe that Sasquatch is alive. It's an animal.
Yep.
And I don't think it necessarily falls into the Homo genus. I think it could be a relic hominid. I'm not for sure, but I don't think it's on the same level as humans. I don't think, because if it was, they'd be applying for jobs at Amazon making $20-some an hour.
Making more than me an hour.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I believe it's some sort of ape. With my Christian background, I don't necessarily go with the evolution theories of things. So, but it's all good to listen to everybody's opinions and get all that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Absolutely.
I got some questions for you.
This is another strange question, but I asked this of all the guests, and I noticed that you're you interested in the show. I think you've seen some episodes. Animal, mineral, or vegetable? Do you believe that Bigfoot is a living animal? Do you believe mineral, that Bigfoot is interdimensional or extraterrestrial? Or vegetable, do you think it might be spiritual, or do you believe it might be a combination of all?
Yeah, definitely animal. It leaves DNA, it leaves footprints, stuff like that. It leaves tree structures, nest. It's definitely animal. And I'll go off of what Charles said on his interview. If we want this to be taken serious by a scientific community, we got to treat it as an animal.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I don't, when I talk to people about it, I don't discount anything that anybody says, because that is their experience.
Absolutely.
No matter how odd it seems or whatever. And, there's been some that I walked away from and scratched my head and wondered, did they encounter the same thing that I did? Or was this something completely different? But, I think that's an important thing in research. And, you're a young guy. I believe you're about 33. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So, it's an important thing, especially, starting out in research and things like that. Don't ever really discredit anything. Just kind of take it all in, and you'll actually start to see some links that start to form up with some of the stranger things in a lot of different encounter scenarios.
Yeah, I agree with you. We got to take what everybody says and believe them, because we weren't there. We didn't see what they saw. So we have to take them at their word.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Tyler, I said it right then too, but you're a fairly young guy. You're 33. Do you believe that Sasquatch will be proven to be real in your lifetime?
I think so. We have so much technology now that's out there. We can figure it out. And I believe Cliff is like on the edge of finding it. He has gotten enough research and data over the years. I think he can basically pinpoint where they're going to be at what times a year. So I think it's just a matter of time before him or somebody else like him comes up with something good. And with the eDNA, I think that's really going to be close. And this DNA study they're doing out of, I believe, NC State.
Yes, sir.
Looking forward to that. That should be pretty good too.
I'm kind of interested myself in that study. I want to see if there's any similarities between that and maybe Melba Ketchum's. But there's been a lot of heat over Melba Ketchum's original DNA study. But I'm kind of interested to see if there might be any similarities in that. That should be pretty good information. Now, talking about technology, Tyler, what equipment do you use in your research when you're in the field?
So I don't have a lot. Charles is the gadget guy. So I just have a FLIR thermal camera. I have a set of night vision IR binoculars and a red headlight. That's really all I got. I do want to build a long duration recorder this winter and start hitting some areas up that I think could be pretty squatchy. So I'm going to get Charles helping me do that. As far as technology goes, that's all I got. I'd like to, at some point, one of us in the ECE get a good thermal drone would be really, really cool. But that's, pretty pricey right now.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, there's no kidding. That's no joke there.
Yeah.
Which, too, with you being in the field with, and I'm just saying, the East Coast Expedition team on the Shenandoah Sasquatch series, I've watched both of them that are out so far. And, man, you guys are cooking. I mean, they're excellent. You don't have to talk to each other. It's just like everybody nods and points, and it's excellent teamwork. And like you said, too, with Charles is a gadget guy.
Oh, yeah.
That dude is really, really sharp. We've had him on the show. He's really, really sharp. Let me move on to my next question here. Have you always been interested in Sasquatch, or is this something that you got interested in after your encounter?
So I've, growing up as a kid, my uncle actually had an encyclopedia on the bookshelf and had the Yeti, Bigfoot in it. We'd always look at the monster books and stuff like that. And then watching Finding Bigfoot and what was the other show on the Discovery or History Channel? Monster Quest.
Monster Quest.
Yep, we'd watch that. And I was always interested in it. And, my granddad always talked about the boogeyman when we were kids, and he would scare us with the boogeyman because he grew up in pretty close to here, but it's fairly forested and wooded. And he always joked with us about the booger man's going to get us or whatnot. So it was always in the back of my mind. And then when we had that encounter, it's like nothing else can make that sound. Nothing else can pick up a piece of wood and smack it against a tree or do a mouth pop or whatever it's doing out there. So then we, kind of got to looking around, doing some research. And, when I set out to do this, I wanted to prove to myself that something was out there. And I did. So now I just want to validate what everybody else has been seeing too.
Yeah, that's excellent. And like I said, you guys do excellent work. Thank you. And I'm gonna hop in on this too. You stated in your interview that Sasquatch is your side hobby. Can you explain to us what you've learned through your research and what advice you might have for a new researcher?
Yeah. I read Charles's book. I'm going to plug him. I know he's watching. So I read his book and, got some extra pointers, and then just hanging out with him, he's got me a bunch of pointers and stuff. For new squatchers, I think read the book, get yourself a red headlight and a recorder, and go to the woods and have fun. That's the main thing, is just get outside. And I think that's also another piece of this, is just getting people outside to experience nature and enjoy nature.
Exactly. If anything, man, it gets you out there, and I tell you, it's a stress reliever.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you too, from my own personal experience, I was kind of like you. Yeah, this is a really cool side hobby to have and something to do. And I've said it on the show before too. This Sasquatch thing is like dope. Once you start, you can't quit. You're hooked. You got stuff. You're hooked. You've got stuff on your wall. You're hooked.
Yep. It's like fishing. Every time you cast, like, all right, one more time. And you're hoping to get something. It's kind of addictive. But there's a lot of rabbit holes you can go down. So I try not to go down many rabbit holes, just try to stay focused on the physical stuff. And it keeps me on track.
Excellent. That's
All
excellent.
right.
That's
Well,
good advice.
I guess we'll go ahead and play Tyler's theme song.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
So we got, see, I was mistaking him with Tyler Hall from last week, right? When I said modern rock. So he told me he likes modern rock. It wasn't Tyler Hall. He liked country. So
we're both handsome.
Now, right. So now I got it straight. So we're going to play some modern rock about Tyler. So here we go.
Tyler in the woods, searching shadows deep. Mountain grapple whisper secrets but won't keep. Footprints vanish in the misty dawn. Shenandoah, silent night drags on. Hunting dreams he follows, tracks unseen. Creeping through the forest, endless green. Rustling leaves teasing him again. Echoes luring when the light has been. Sasquatch, where you hiding, why you hide? Tyler's calling, crying in the night. Shenandoah, witness shadows fly. Tyler's heart will never say goodbye. Rustling branches, ghosts in ancient trees. Eyes in the darkness, none for him to see. Loneliness seeps into his restless mind. Voices clouding reason in the night he finds. Fire burns but never brings him light. Barefoot down the trails, footsteps light. Fog wraps around him, cold embrace. Search continues, he won't give up the chase. Sasquatch, where you hiding, why you hide? Tyler's calling, crying in the night. Shenandoah, witness shadows lie. Tyler's heart will never say goodbye. Sasquatch, where you hiding, why you hide? Tyler's calling, crying in the night. Shenandoah, witness shadows lie. Tyler's heart will never say goodbye. Sasquatch, where you hiding, why you hide? Why you hide? Tyler's calling, crying in the night. In the night. Shenandoah, witness shadows lie. Shadows lie. Tyler's heart will never say goodbye.
There we have it.
Very
pretty
good.
That's
Very
pretty
good.
good.
Good guitar solos.
That's incredible how AI does it.
They can do anything.
I'm amazed every time.
Yep.
It's really good.
Yep.
Tyler, I know you're a man with lots of interests. And one of those interests is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Can you tell us, has that assisted you any in your career and your research?
Not really. I haven't gone in a while, actually. I hurt my wrist, so it's been about 2 months since I've gone. I guess it's made me more flexible and it's helped out my hiking ability up the side of the mountain. So maybe it has helped a little bit.
I don't think I'd be going hand to hand with Sasquatch.
Nah, he's a lot bigger than me. Yeah, I'm a $150 soaking wet. He's like 800 pounds. So probably wouldn't go
I'm
so
pretty
well.
sure he can take your arm off and beat you to death with the wet end.
Most likely.
Right.
I just thought that was a really interesting little fact there. Actually saw some pictures of you in your jiu-jitsu class.
Getting beat, yeah.
Yeah, that comes with it. Can you tell us about the habitat of Little North Mountain and Switzer Lake and what makes it special for Sasquatch research?
Yeah, it's very forested. There's not many houses up through there. It's pretty well secluded. It's the terrain's like most of Appalachia and West Virginia, Rockies, got cliffs, steep areas. It's good. I know everybody says it for black bear. There's a lot of black bear back there, and if black bear can live there, Sasquatch can live there. So this area is just rich with history of more. Now that my name is out there and I'm involved in this, more people come to me with stories. So now I've gotten a little bit of history from the 80s to up to the 2000s, somewhere in there, of just different people telling me things that they've seen in this area, in Little North Mountain and Switzer area. And I believe on the BFRO's website, I think like 5 of the 6 encounters or sightings are in Switzer area. So it's a good habitat. There's plenty of water, plenty of food. So, it's ripe with them, I believe. We just got to figure out where they are and when they're going to be there, just like everybody else is trying to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. With that being said, Tyler, do you think that Sasquatch is a migratory animal, or do you believe that it just might have a home range, which it just moves throughout as different fruits and foods become available?
Yeah, I think it rotates or travels a certain area every 3 to 4 weeks. From the talking to some other guys that have been doing it for a lot longer than I have, that just seems like a pattern that they kind of travel with the food depending on the season. When we had all of our activity, it was real cold. It was longer power lines. So I believe they were using those power lines as a highway.
Yep.
There was old apple orchards in that area, and there was a lot of water. So I believe they were hitting that area up until they got the resources down, and they moved on to the next spot. And in a couple of weeks, they would seem to come back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I definitely don't think they migrate per se, but I think they just rotate around areas every, like I said, 3 or 4 weeks, maybe even longer.
Do you believe that they live in a family group with more than one individual, or do you believe it's more of a solitary animal?
It's probably a family group, probably 4 to 6 of them, and might be a couple lone males, just leaving the family group looking for a mate. They might be by themselves somewhere, but I think most of the evidence shows that they're family groups with the nesting sites and different prints that they're finding at different sizes in the same area. So I believe that they're family groups.
Okay. I know you've worked some wildfires in the past. Have you had any experiences or noticed anything unusual while working these wildfires?
I have not. Most of the wildfires that we run in our area, there's houses around and lots of people. They're not too far off the beaten path, so I haven't seen anything unusual on those.
Other than your experience at Switzer Lake, have you had any other experiences with Sasquatch while out on expedition, maybe with East Coast expeditions, or while you were doing the Shenandoah Sasquatch?
Yeah. So when I first, in 2010, when I started recording and doing stuff, we got iGlow back on Little North Mountain where we're hitting up the area. Plenty of stick structures. We found a pile of them, and most of them were near hunting stands, tree stands, tree blinds, whichever you like to call them. We found some possible prints back there, nothing definitive. And then, of course, on the Shenandoah Sasquatch, we had some, which I'm not going to spoil it. It's coming out Wednesday. There's some audio that we got, so we had some interaction there. You saw some of it on episode 2. Back at our expedition on the BFRO a couple weeks ago, we had a really nice encounter with something. It was Devin, Charles, myself, and another gentleman sitting in the woods. And we had it sounded like a tree knock at first, but right after that knock, a tree came crashing down within 100 feet of us.
Oh, wow.
It shook the ground. There was no wind. There had been quite a bit of rain, so it could have been just a soft tree. But in that area, there was a sighting 10 years ago on the expedition. They were actually watching the creature on thermal. So we were in pretty good area that has some history of some sightings. And we thought we were seeing some eye glow around that same time, but we never could, confirm that. And about an hour later, something hit the tree about 15, 20 feet above us, and it made the loose pine needles fall to the ground. So we're thinking it was a rock that hit a tree, because when we looked up, we could see a tree branch moving. So, it could have been a bird flying away, but we never heard the wings flapping. And so we're thinking possibly a rock throw. But, with the different evidence, different things that happened, it kind of added up to a possible Sasquatch in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm just going to say, from my own personal experience, I do some hunting and fishing and camping, and I really enjoy being in the outdoors. But if it was a bird, that would have to be a very large bird to shake pine needles out of the tree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about the eye glow? A lot of people think that the eye glow is eye shine, which is the reflection of the eyes. And some people actually say that they see like luminescent eyes. What's your opinion on that?
I always got them confused too. I finally got them straightened out. But the eye glow is basically, the way I like to describe it, it's stars. You can see stars, but they're in the woods and not in the sky. That's what I describe that as. And eye shine is like headlights projecting light out onto the ground. I've never seen that. I'd be interested to see that and experience it, just to try to wrap my mind around it. But that's definitely different. You don't know any animals that can do that. So that'd be unique.
Yeah. I don't think there's any primate that I'm aware of that have any type of bioluminescence. I know they're finding a lot of animals now, especially sea creatures, sea turtles and some other reptiles that have some bioluminescence that's never been noticed before.
Yep.
But I'm kind of interested in the eye shine myself. That's something I've seen. Some really large eyes that I think were reflecting light, not necessarily emitting light, and I'm really fascinated with that.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, science is finding new stuff every day, so there's definitely hope. That there's come up with something.
Yeah.
With that being said, with science coming up with things every day, are you into any other type of cryptids other than Sasquatch?
I always watch the shows. Expedition X, I enjoy watching that. But it always fascinates me what's out there. But my main focus is on Sasquatch. The Mothman's always interesting to me. The Dogman, all that stuff's neat. But, again, I don't want to discredit what other people saw. But my main focus is on Sasquatch, because I believe that that has the most evidence, and it has the most history going back to the Native Americans. So I believe there's actually something legit with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was looking on the map in your general area, and Little North Mountain, which it leads, it goes northward, and then there's another mountain range just up from that. I think they call it Big North Mountain. Is that correct?
Yep.
And that's it's like the foothills, really, of the Shenandoah Valley right in there. And that is a really, really forested area. Within that area, what do you think that Sasquatch might be feeding on?
Oh, man, again, back to the black bear, small game, deer, berries, apples, anything you can eat, depending on the time of year. There's plenty of resources out there for, down to acorns. The deer eat acorns. So, there's all kinds of things that they can be eating on, especially up in the northern Shenandoah Valley with all the apple orchards that Winchester has. There's definitely sneak in there and get some apples, depending on the time of year.
I was really interested in the Shenandoah Sasquatch series. You guys set up a gifting station. Just interested. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's shown to work in the past with different things. Squeaky down in the Uwharries, that has worked. And I know Charles has had some good interactions with it where stuff has moved around, the things he's put up there. Other people have left things, and then the creature leaves things, and they've gone back and forth. So I think it's a good way to show the creature that we're not here to hurt you. So it's like it's a gift, the gifting station.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, we're not here to hurt you. We just want to interact with you and be friends.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's an excellent output. It really is. Let me try to go through some notes here.
Now that he's mentioned the gifting, we did a little experiment on a fellow's property over near Catharpin, Virginia, which a lot of people say Catharpin, that's right there by Manassas. But there's actually a patch of woods that runs all the way from that area all the way up to Bull Run Mountain, which of course is a pretty good size area. But anyway, he was having some activity on his property, and he agreed to let us do a camera project. We had set up several cameras in the area, and we decided and I don't even know why we came up with the idea. We just did. We decided to do a rock stack, and then on the rock stack we put a penny on top of the rock stack. Now we had cameras at different angles, aimed right at that area. And one time when we went back, the penny wasn't on the rocks. I was like, well, we need to check the cameras. So we checked the cameras, and there was absolutely nothing on the cameras other than, deer and, fox, normal stuff. And come to find out, the rock ended up at the bottom, under the bottom base rock. And I'm like, now how in the world did that happen?
How's that happen?
And with that being said, too, I'm pretty sure it's not a bear because bears don't have thumbs.
Yep.
No. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the camera. I was listening to a podcast. I haven't found the results of it. The North American Wood Ape Conservatory, back in 2020, I believe, did an operation they called Hadrian's Wall, where they set up, I think it was 20 or 30 some cameras in the bottom of a valley, and they took all the infrared sensors out of it. But I can't find if they've got any luck with that or not. I haven't been able to find that, so I wasn't sure if y'all had any information on that or not.
Well, we had a guest on here. I think who was it? Gary? Who was it we had on here that was part of that? Can you remember?
I'm trying to think. They talked about it.
Yeah. I done forgot. I done drew a blank. But yeah, they talked about it, and that's like up there around Bluff Creek. They have cameras. They have cameras that they leave up year round.
Was that been Steven Strufert?
It might have been. But I can't remember.
But that was
fried right now.
Yeah.
That was a well thought out plan. I mean, all the cameras overlapped each other, and they knew they were sacrificing the night shots.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people say, they believe they can see IR, which animals can see into the IR a little bit. Because every time you take a picture at night with a deer is staring right at the camera.
Yep.
Take a picture during the day, they have no idea it's there.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to take the IR out of it. But I hadn't seen what the results were. I was curious if y'all had heard.
I haven't really heard anything. I know with the Bluff Creek project, I've got really fascinated with that because they did find the Humboldt marten, which was supposedly an extinct species.
I do remember seeing that. Yep.
And I'm kind of fascinated with stuff like that. Anytime that they can prove that an animal exists after science has wrote it off, that gives me just that much more hope that, we're getting closer. We're getting closer.
Yep.
Another one that I read up on a whole lot is the thylacine, the Tasmanian tiger.
Absolutely. Yep.
And they have a pretty good, I think it's about maybe 2 or 3 weeks old, thermal video of what appears to be a juvenile thylacine running through a herd of young kangaroo.
Awesome. And
I'm really excited about that. But with that being said, looking through my stuff here, Sasquatch in your area, do you think that there is like just one kind of Sasquatch, or do you believe that there might be different ones, or do you think it's more like humans that you would have like some are good and some just have bad intentions?
I think most of them have good intentions. I don't think they're very aggressive. At least from the stories I've heard, A couple here lately that they may have been throwing rocks. But I think most of them they're just curious, wanting to see what's going on. I don't think they're wanting to hurt anybody, and maybe if we encroach on their territory too much, then they might get a little more aggressive. But for the most part, I believe they're pretty nice.
Yeah, kind of like the ones that got a shot at them right up at Ape Canyon. I'd say,
Yeah, that probably went over the line a little bit with them.
Right.
Well, as you look through reports too, a lot of people say that they can recognize a firearm and take that as an evil intent.
Mm-hmm.
And the level of aggression from the Sasquatch increases with the presence of a firearm. I'm a firm believer in carrying a firearm when you're in the woods because there are more dangerous things in the wood than Sasquatch.
Absolutely. Yep.
And most of them walk on two legs too.
Yep. We've seen some weird things out in the woods. It's like, I don't know what's going on here or what this person's intentions are, but it's some strange stuff in the woods.
Yep.
Well,
It's all fun and games. Do you run across somebody that's all hopped up on that high-speed chicken feed?
Yep. And unfortunately, there's a lot in this area. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's all throughout, rural Virginia. Where I live at here in Southwest Virginia, I'm close to Kentucky, West Virginia, and Tennessee. And I have a lot of people that's talked to me about things that they've saw in actually Kentucky, West Virginia, and Tennessee. And all of the encounters, they all kind of have like a central theme. I saw this. I didn't believe it. I didn't want to tell anybody about it. In your research, have you had anybody that's come up and said, hey, listen, this is what I saw? Don't say nothing.
Yeah. Normally, well, before the show, nobody really knew I did this. I kept it quiet. And now that my name's out there and my face is all over YouTube, some of my buddies found out about it and give me a hard time. But I've also had some come out and go, hey, I got this story. Don't tell anybody. I've had people contact me on Facebook, and I'm like, this is kind of cool. So I told them, do report the BFRO. I won't say your word, your name, your identity is secure. But it's starting to see a lot more of that. People don't want to be made fun of and don't want the ridicule.
Yeah.
So, and that's another thing that, if I can take it for people and then prove it, then they won't be ridiculed.
Yeah, that's, a lot of people, especially here in the mountains, and, Virginia sits firmly in the Bible Belt. And there are a lot of people that are extremely religious that will not talk about it because they think that that's going to interfere with their beliefs. And a lot of hunters, too, will say, man, I seen this weird looking bear, and it was just walking on two legs. And, you kind of think to yourself, I'm pretty sure a bear is not going to walk that far on two legs.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I think a lot of hunters say that because they don't want to admit that they saw something that they might be afraid of and it might interfere with their hunting.
Right. Yeah, they want to go back into the woods. They don't want to be afraid to go back in the woods.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of people that they see these things and they refuse to go back to, where they saw it or even go to the woods at all. So if they can.
Yeah. I know while I was researching your encounter, I actually read your BFRO report. And your encounter actually went on for several minutes. It wasn't just like a couple of knocks and it was over with. It went on for a pretty good while. I think they said initially maybe 15 minutes.
It was somewhere, back and forth, not constant for 15 minutes, but it was probably a couple knocks. And then 5 minutes later, a couple more, and then maybe 7 minutes later, a couple more. So it was pretty interesting.
How close do you think you were to that particular individual?
Probably we were right against the shore. So we were probably within 100 feet, 200 feet of it.
That's pretty spooky when you think about it, because they're, something that's obviously big enough to make that kind of noise and you can't see it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we felt safe because we were on the water, so there's a little bit of security that we were on the water and it was, way up there, but I guess it could have thrown something at us and, if it wanted to, but it never saw anything thrown, never any loud grunts or roars or anything, just some tree knocking.
That's really interesting. I think you guys did some filming there at Switzer Lake. And at one point, I believe it was you, because everything's kind of running together right now. I've had a lot of stuff going on. But you were talking about snail shells.
Yeah, so that was at a private property about 7-8 miles from there. So they did do some filming there with the drone. We did our night hike at Dry River Dam, and then we actually had some good interaction at the our base camp there on near 33. But yeah, there's a little pond there. It's got a bunch of snail shells in it. Plenty of big fish in there. Plenty of deer, small game, acorns. All that good stuff around that place.
Do you believe they were actually feeding on those snails based on what you saw?
I don't know if they were. I've never seen any prints down there, and we're back there quite often. We go back here just to hang out and fish, and we go back there camping a lot. Never seen any prints. Plenty of raccoon and deer, but that doesn't mean there's not another area, because the one side is kind of hard to get to. So it's possible that they're coming down a different spot where there's not as much mud on the bank and pulling snails out. But there is a ton of snails in there.
There's a researcher. He's native, and I believe he's out of the state of Washington. He may be out of Canada. Tom Seawood, and that's one of the things that he talks about is how during the clamming season and stuff that Sasquatch will be on the beaches and they'll gather the cockles and the clams and eat them, and they'll leave the shells stacked up right there. And I have actually found shells stacked up. We have freshwater mussels here in the rivers we have here. And I've actually found the shells stacked up, but I've never had I've had bear prints next to it or raccoon tracks or something like that. I've never seen a Sasquatch track next to it. And I've often wondered about that.
Yeah, I've never found a track. I'd like to. I know, which this coming episode, there's some more evidence. I don't want to give it away. But that's one of my hopes, is to find a nice print with something like those back there.
Yeah.
But nothing yet.
Yeah. I found a couple of tracks in, the research that I've done. And the best one that I ever found completely dumbfounded me. And I was on an expedition with Billy, and I think there was probably about 30 of us there. And it was one track. And it was right in the mud. It was fairly deep. Had good length. I think it was like 15 and a half inches long, maybe 7.5 inches wide. And I have thought about that ever since I have found that one track, because it was a nice track. You could see toes. You could actually see where the toes had created a suction and pulled the mud up. So I know it wasn't, a wooden cutout, somebody trying to hoax us there. But I have studied on that ever since I found that track, how there was only just one track.
Yeah, it's odd. Yeah.
The only thing that I can think of is it was in a tree and it climbed down and put 1 foot down and decided to go right back up in that tree. That's the only thing I can possibly come up with. But
that's one a lot of people go to the interdimensional thing, and and again, what they see, we didn't see it, so we can't say. But it's hard for me to explain the unexplained with more unexplained.
Yeah. I've got Ron Moorhead's book. I've actually spoke to Ron several times. I go to a Bigfoot festival in Townsend, Tennessee, and he's usually one of the guests there. And, he has the quantum Bigfoot theory. Mm-hmm. And I haven't read that one yet. I'm working on his original book. I think it's Voices in the Wilderness by Ron Moorhead. And that is an excellent book. If anybody's just getting into this, Ron Moorhead recorded the Sierra Sounds, which is probably the best vocals that's ever been recorded. But I haven't quite got to the quantum Bigfoot thing yet. I have a hard time with it, because my thoughts on it are that if it is interdimensional, why is it leaving trace evidence like scat or tracks or handprints or beds or nests? If it's just coming in here to gather food and leaving, or just pops in and pops out, why is it leaving all this trace evidence?
Yep, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard theory for me, but Ron Moorhead is 100% behind it.
Yeah,
100% behind it. Have you worked with other researchers besides the East Coast Expedition team? I know you were talking about BFRO.
Yeah, so ECE, that's where I started. And so those guys they're all part of BFRO. So when we went on an expedition a couple weeks ago, I hung out with those guys, Devin, Charles, and Greg. Sorry, Greg. So we all hung out together and went squatching together. We kind of just stay there, but I met some other really nice people. But I haven't done a whole lot, because that was my first one. I'm unable to travel a whole lot due to my new little family. So if it's something within 2 or 3 hours, I try to go. So I've been down to Southwest Virginia, done some ECE stuff down there, Laurel Fork, West Virginia. Then of course back in this last one we just came back from was about an hour and a half away. So
yeah, you're in. I think you're probably about 5.5 hours from where I live at, I believe. Up in Singer's Glen, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
I believe you're about 5.5 hours from me. And while I was researching your BFRO report, I thought, well, hey, I'm just going to go over and check my county and see if there's any in my county, and there's one. And it just so happens that it happened in 2020 at a campground that I work at.
There you go.
And I had no clue that this happened, and the BFRO investigator that did it was Matt Moneymaker.
Was it a sighting?
It was Class B wood knocks and footsteps. And I've tried to find the guy on Facebook that made the report, and I have had no luck finding this guy. But I'd like to get, I've had several reports from other people of activity around that area, which, it's on the backwaters of the lake here in our county. And one guy had an encounter not too far from the campground. They were actually camping in the winter after the campground had closed up on some old abandoned mining roads up there. And they had a pretty close encounter up there. There was some rock throwing, and they actually saw it, and one guy shot at it, and that was a pretty interesting story.
Yeah.
But that was pretty wild.
Well, they say campsites are a good place to look for them when everybody leaves. They come in to see what they can find and be curious and nosy and see what went on. One of the nights we a lot of times we'll go out, we'll sit around the campfire, or just hang out like normal, play a video or something, just see if we can stoke any interest. We don't just always go out and bang on trees and make whoops. So, but
I believe that works. I think they have a sincere interest in what we're doing, because a lot of reports you hear them. He was sitting on the hill watching us as we was out in the yard playing and all this other stuff. And I think they have a big interest in children. Now, I don't know exactly what their interest is in children, but I've had several people say that the baby crying, you can go on YouTube or whatever and find so many hours of a baby crying.
Yep.
Which why anybody would want to listen to that. I've had 3 sons. I'm done with the baby crying. But they say that really draws.
We've tried that. We've taken a Bluetooth speaker out with a baby crying and actually a baby doll and stuck it in a tree or on a stump, and no luck yet. But it's very eerie when you're sitting there listening to a baby cry for 15 minutes.
Yeah. We actually had some pretty good activity one time. Wasn't it didn't we play orangutan sounds, Billy, when we got that big scream that time?
I think, I think it was. I think it was orangutan. And then I can't remember if it was at the Virginia expedition or not, but I remember one time we played whale sounds too.
Yeah. So. We even had a guy one time play a saxophone.
Yep.
Well, Devin's had a lot of luck when he does his presentation with all the audio he's collected. They've got some where they always set recorders up throughout the presentation, and they've had them come in and make sounds and stuff as he's call blasting his presentation.
Mm.
Oh, wow. That's pretty interesting.
Yep. I believe on his website, Sasquatch Bioacoustics, I believe he has some of those on there that he's recorded while he's doing his presentation. So they're very good, very close vocals.
For the guys in the chat, the Sasquatch Bioacoustics, they have a lot. I don't know how many hours of audio that they have, but they have a lot of audio on there. And it's really worth sitting down and listening to some of it. I went through it and listened to a few of them. And it's really pretty interesting. Yep, we lost Billy.
Lost him.
You'll be back.
Yeah, you should still be able to hear me. I don't know. Something just happened to my camera.
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Now, you wouldn't believe what I went through trying to get this show started. That's why it was late. I'm not a technology guy. Not at all.
Yeah, that was weird how that happened.
But with your research and things like that, have you come to any conclusions as to what you think might be like a prime area next to where you live?
That's tough. We have so much national forest and private land around us. We have luck in one area, and then 3 or 4 weeks later or a month later, nothing. So that's what we've been trying to find out is a really good area to work. I think in this area, Switzer Dam, Raleigh Pike area, I think that's going to be our best, or even over in the West Virginia Brandywine. I think that area is probably the best for us to start looking. I do want to get some recorders out on the northern end of Rockingham County. I've heard I got some land back there who's had some interesting things. So when all the bug noise dies down, Charles and myself we're going to use his recorder. We're going to go out to his property and put the recorder out to see if we can find anything. So we're just kind of shooting in dark a little bit, but I think we got Raleigh Pike area as a prime area and maybe northern Rockingham County.
I know Rockingham County has a huge population of deer.
Oh yeah.
Which I think I think Rockingham may be the number one in the state of Virginia, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it. I got about half of them living in my front yard.
And I don't feel like the Lone Ranger. You can't plant anything here; they'll eat it.
Yeah, I got a bird bath. They drain it every night. They come up and drink it dry every night.
I actually planted some. They were Thai chilies, and they're like supposed to be super hot, which I'm big into the hot stuff. And they eat every one of them. Everyone, I don't know how they did it, but they eat every one of them. In Rockingham County, right there, like I said, you guys are really close to Shenandoah, and there is a ton, like you said, of national forest and stuff like that in there. When do you think it'd be the best time in your area to do your I know Charles said that he likes to go during the fall.
Yeah. Yeah, fall, winter, and spring are the best times. I don't like snakes.
You don't feel like the Lone Ranger.
Yeah, I don't do snakes. And in the summertime, you have so much bug noise and all the other background noise. It's so hard to hear anything. So we try to go, late fall, early winter, early spring, where there's not much noise and there's not a whole lot of foliage on the ground that you can step on and stuff like that. Like I said, we talked earlier that they probably roam a certain area. So it's just trying to pinpoint where they're roaming at what time. And that's so hard.
The area that you guys did in the Shenandoah Sasquatch had some fire move through it.
It did. Yep.
Which I think, in my opinion, is probably one of the best things for game species, because after you have fire like that, you have a large amount of fruit that comes back in. You have the blackberries, you have raspberries, and the bane of my existence, autumn olives, are everywhere here, and everything eats them.
Yep.
I've seen turkey, deer, skunks, squirrels, you name it. Everything eats them. And I think that you guys are really in the Shenandoah Sasquatch are really in a prime spot within the next few years when that fruit does start coming back in.
Oh yeah, and there's been in the last 14 years, there's been 2 fires in that same area, and just going back there now. Well, after it happened, when spring was really starting to come out, everything was so green back there. I mean, it's like you couldn't even tell there was a fire. It looked great, but like you said, it's really good for the wildlife. And there was so much more wineberries and blackberries back there than there has been in the past. And we camp there. I try to go camping and hiking at least once a month, and we go back there quite a bit. And we've never actually tried to do anything back there as far as squatching. And we had a lot of luck this time around, I guess, since we actually did something, and we left a recorder out, and I don't think we had much over the 30 days from that. But I haven't given up on that area yet.
No, I don't think I would. I think, like I said, within the next few years, that's going to be a real hot spot.
Oh yeah.
In my own opinion, just based on, what I saw from the show, which, is just little clips. But like I said, after that fire goes through, there's a lot of stuff that comes back in. That's a good one.
Yeah, there you go.
Looks like I'm in the
Hey, man. Hey, Gary, you ought to apply, man.
Camo hat and a cup of sweet tea.
Look, I used to be a sweet tea guy, but diabetes has about ended my days with sweet tea. Enjoy your time hiking and camping and stuff like that now while you're young, because when you get to be my age, there's a big line that you can't cross. Big line that you can't cross.
It happens to us all, man.
Unfortunately.
Oh yeah. Tyler, have you had any? I know you mentioned it earlier, but have you had any mentors since you started your research into Sasquatch?
Absolutely. Charles, he lives 20 minutes from me, so he's been a big mentor. Devin and Greg, I mean, those guys they really took me under their arms and showed me the way. I've learned so much from those guys. It's unbelievable what they know. They're a wealth of knowledge. And it's a lot of stuff that I've said I've learned from them, and those guys have been around a long time, very smart, been out in the field a lot. So I really look up to those guys.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Billy, that's all I've got, pal.
Well, we're definitely over time. So you had plenty of questions. That worked out just perfectly.
I'm sorry. I just
That's
like to
all right.
apologize to everybody that's watching again. It's my fault that we didn't go on time. I tried. It's not my thing.
It's all good, man. It's all good. They still get to see the show. Well, Tyler, we appreciate it. Can you hold on until after the closing and all that, and we'll talk a little bit further? Okay.
Absolutely. I appreciate y'all having me on. Enjoyed it.
Yep. We enjoyed it too. So, again, everybody, thank you for watching the show, and we'll have another great guest on next week. I'll leave y'all in suspense on that one. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button on YouTube. It doesn't cost you a dime, but it does let you know who the upcoming guests are every time they're scheduled. It allows you to get in there and make comments on the show. You can like the show or you can dislike the show. And then, of course, we have our Facebook page if you want to get on there. So we got several different ways. Website, SasquatchWatchRadio.com. I finally got that working. Finally. So we got plenty of ways to watch the shows. So until next week, everybody have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Good night, everybody.
Night, everybody.